Thank you very much, John, and thank you to Gary for inviting me here today. It's a pleasure to see so many friendly faces and people that I know here, and I will try my best to keep within the time limit. So my thanks, and also ASBROM, that's our symbol at the top. I was meant to bring a whole bunch of leaflets to advertise the society and forgot. So I'm here, hopefully I will remind you. It's the Association for the Study and Preservation of Roman Mosaics. asbrom.org is our website. Please go and please join. Today I will give you a 20-minute gallop through Libyan archaeology focusing on the mosaics. I will also introduce you to a conservation training project that I am responsible for. In this way I hope to connect both the ancient past to the contemporary present. These are a couple of photos that I took earlier this year when I was in Libya in April. They are graffiti following the immense joy and happiness from Libyans following the fall of Gaddafi. The one on the right, Libya Free, recalls the 17th of February, the most important date now in Libya, and the one that effectively is the password for almost all networks within the country. So if you happen to find yourself stuck there trying to work out a password, try the 17th of February. I'm not going here to speak in depth about the revolution. I'm not going to cover the political and social situation, but I will mention some of the outcomes for Libya's cultural heritage. If you want to know more, stick Austrian Blue Shield into your web browser, and you can find 2 missions done in late 2011 telling you about what happened to Libya's cultural heritage. And if you want to follow day-to-day news, I recommend the Libyan Herald as a very useful website. So, a map to situate any of you who are not familiar with this enormous and diverse country. None of the pre-desert will be discussed today, nor the Fezzan, nor the deep Sahara. I will be focusing on the coastline, which is divided into 2 regions, Tripolitania in the west and Cyrenaica in the east. I will be focusing on a couple of sites, Sabratha, Lepkis Magna, a set of coastal villas, Ptolemais, Cyrene, and Benghazi. If the revolution has done one thing more than free Libya's people, it has made Libya's geography familiar to the world. So I hope that some of the places that I will mention you will recognize from news reports. So we start in Tripolitania, around the capital city of Tripoli, where there are large, well-known coastal classical sites. For example, Lepkis Magna to the east of Tripoli and Sabratha to the west. These enormous, impressive sites appear in many of the guidebooks and most general books on the ancient world. They were cleared in the 20th century by foreign missions, mainly the Italians, Brits, and others, and they have been left exposed to the environment since then. These clearances have obviously revealed these enormous cities, and anastylosis, the rebuilding and reconstruction of many of the major sites, make them visible to us today. On the left-hand side, Lepkis Magna, with its famous quadriphons of Septimius Severus, the African emperor, who embellished his home city, and the Forum to the right, bath complexes, perhaps known to some of you who know John Wayne or Sophia Loren's work, where they bathed after a long mission through the Sahara in the baths at Lepkis, the pool that you see to the left. The famous theatre from Sabratha, reconstructed by the Italians. And all of these sites containing mosaics. Mosaics mainly in public spaces, baths in particular, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the seaward baths of Sabratha with the theatre poking up in the background. Further baths at Sabratha, the famous Oceanus baths, these exposed, as you can see, with sections of the mosaics removed. The Oceanus central panel removed to museums. Others in a state of degradation in some places, still with the conservation cloths maintaining the integrity of the surface. At Lepkis, there are actually many fewer mosaics on public display. Most of the major public baths are covered in Mediterranean marbles, and that was clearly the most prestigious material for their decoration. However, there is a very fine and small hunting baths close to the coast on the east side of the ancient site, which you can see reconstructed again slightly by the Italian team up at the top left, which contains mosaics covering the floors in geometric decoration, as well as nilotic scenes of crocodiles in the semi-domes of the apses, named after the very fancy wall painting with hunters going about their business, presumably within an amphitheatre setting. These are not elite members of society. These are spectacles and games, and this is something that I shall return to regularly. Also at Lepkis, there is a very famous now mosaic museum which has two buildings, one which contains sets of floors from the surrounding area, and another that contains the incredibly fine mosaic from Wadi Lebda, another bath mosaic. It is a floor that contains some of the most extraordinarily detailed and fine scenes of spectacle. I show you at the top left the article that appeared written by Mark Berenike, who might be familiar to some of you, in the Times in June 2005. An image below of its display for some time on the wall, the exterior wall of a museum, and the new Italian reconstruction within a new building. And the bottom right-hand corner is a very fancy gladiator's helmet to give you an idea of the complexity of this mosaic. It is extraordinary to behold. One of the features of the Libyan coastline are villas that dot along its coast. It is a very beautiful coastline, one that I'm sure developers are currently queuing up to build upon. And there are certainly signs already of construction activity. The coastline not only contains villas, as you can see in the large picture in the distance, but for our current contemporary world is a very aggressive environment for heritage monuments. The soluble salts cause all sorts of problems, in particular with cement mortars, and the winter sea storms can strongly affect sites close to the seashore. But it's a very beautiful territory, but one that there is an underlying series of problems associated with it. One of the most famous villas is the Villa Saline. This is, again, a very high-end, elite dwelling. These dwellings are not only for social functions, i.e. entertainment of guests and the showing off of wealth. They are also for trade, and often these structures have associated with them small harbours. And it is clear at this time, these are Roman period, late 2nd century AD, that the owners of these villas are making enormous quantities of money. And they are splashing their cash on fancy interior decoration, in particular mosaics and wall decoration. And this cash is coming from olives, and they are producing and selling large quantities of olive oil. And I have no idea how much olive oil you use per year, but it's been estimated something like 20 litres per person in antiquity for lighting, etc. And the Libyan elite are making money out of the sale of this across the Mediterranean. And this is what they're spending their money on. On the left, a very fine marble room with mosaic floors. You can see the marble has been butterflied, it's been thinly cut and then laid out in a butterfly formation. In addition, we get more spectacle, this circus mosaic in the top right, lots of indications of wild animals like these fine leopard and lion, hunting again in the bottom left, a wall painting from the atrium, the main, one of the main spaces of the house, and this rather nice little wrestler mosaic, a competition piece. Equally, a villa from Wootton, again with a very fancy border, showing scenes from the amphitheatre and from games and entertainment. These are the sorts of entertainments that these people are going to and also that they are paying for. This is the great eurgotism of the ancient world, how you increase your social status by effectively putting on games for your peers. In addition to the records of games and spectacle, we have opus sectile, marble floors fitted together in these pretty patterns, marble coming from across the Mediterranean and showing the reach and economic capability of the patron. As I said, these coastal villas, of which we know a number, but of which many, many more are less well known and are likely to start popping up if more survey work was done, are in very, very tough environments. This is the Villa of the Nereids at Tajura, where you can see the cover building is rapidly deteriorating, part of the roof collapsing in this area here, and mosaic floors of very high quality eroding. And this was only conserved in the 60s or 70s to give you an indication of how fast the deterioration is happening. Moving across to the other side of the country, in the large site of Cyrene, most well known for its sanctuary of Apollo, which again has many mosaics from the Hellenistic period, so from the 3rd century BC, right the way through to late antiquity, with a large house, the house of Jason Magnus, probably the most famous property in the city, with fancy opus sectile floors and also mosaic floors. And I show you one in the bottom left with winter, the season depicted in the spandrel, and this mosaic was removed by robbers just prior to the beginning of the revolution. In Ptolemais, another coastal site, you can see the palace of the columns in the background and the upper picture, some animals pottering through the ruins, a bucolic scene, but the animals cause damage to exposed mosaics, is fairly obvious, and a very fine emblema mosaic of fish in the bottom left-hand corner and a scene of Orpheus, both from this ancient site. And moving to Benghazi, one of another very important ancient city, or ancient settlement, well known to you all from its role that it played in the revolution. A city that many have said, was left to rot by Gaddafi, and you can still drive through the centre and see open sewers. I show you firstly the site of Eusperides, the Hellenistic city settlement, settled in the Archaic period and abandoned around 250 BC. It is a very important site, not particularly attractive, full of mosquitoes from the Sebkha vegetation, but was a thriving early settlement with Mosaic floors belonging to the 4th and 3rd centuries BC. And these Mosaic floors are pebble mosaics and also tessellated floors. And this site, as unattractive as it may seem to you, played a role in the development of tessellation, the technique that most of you probably use today. This site is currently under threat, with sections being used to dump rubbish and the protective walls having collapsed. In 250, following the sack of Eusperides, the city moved a couple of kilometers away to a site which was called in antiquity Berenike, and which was excavated again in the 60s and 70s. The mosaics were conserved by foreign teams advising Libyans. So these are problems not of Libya's own creating, rebacked on iron reinforced concrete. These have been left exposed, and you can now see the difference between photographs in the 70s on either side of the lower image and images taken in 2005, and images taken earlier this year by me show this mosaic almost completely lost now. So it's quite easy to identify problems. The issues really are not Libyan. The issues are considerable and they are Mediterranean-wide. All the problems that I've just shown you are not just Libyan, they cross the whole of the Mediterranean. They are the consequences of excavation, the exposure of buried material to problematic environmental and human factors. And we mustn't forget that we play an important role in this. Deterioration happens because of natural processes, water, salts, vegetation, animals, etc. But it is exacerbated by humans, aggressive lifting techniques, poor maintenance, and poor management. There are various solutions to these problems, and these solutions really can be considered as logical steps in helping to solve major issues that are currently appearing across the Mediterranean. Resources need to be recorded, they need to be assessed, there needs to be strategic planning, that planning needs to be well designed and well implemented, and then it needs to be repeated, i.e. It needs to be maintained, monitored, and reassessed. So this planning process is based on logical methods, to reiterate. A full inventory of mosaic resources, so you know what you have. And if you know what you have, you can manage it. An understanding of the significance and condition of mosaics, so that you can prioritize your resources. These all give you a rational basis for decision-making. So a way of identifying appropriate conservation treatments, prioritizing your treatment and programming, allocating your financial resources and budgeting. This is obviously very crucial, especially in countries that have limited financial resources. and enables you to select treatments compatible with the material that you're dealing with. So, very briefly, my project, with a bit of problems with the formatting. Me on the left, if you don't recognise the picture, my colleague from King's College, Hafid Wilder, and my colleague from English Heritage, John Stewart. We are supported by the Libyan Department of Antiquities. That's the flag in the centre. That's the new Libyan flag. By King's College London, where I am a lecturer, and the Getty Foundation, who kindly fund us. We have been in Libya earlier this year doing evaluation presentations, travelling across the Libyan coastline in a 10-day period, giving presentations to about 121 in total, and you might note that of that, only 7 were women. And this is something that we're trying to work on. In the evaluation trip, we focused on a similar sort of approach that I've just mentioned to you, identifying problems, in particular focusing on the problems caused by excavation, and really trying to think about solutions. And this is crucial if you're going to help people. You need to help people to understand the decision-making process and how to allocate resources and use the most appropriate solution to the problem. So the last thing really to say is that on Wednesday I will be flying from Heathrow to Tripoli, and we will start the first workshop the couple of days after that at Sabratha, the site that I showed you earlier. In the course of 10 days, we will be putting on a 3-day workshop for site controllers and their management team, focusing on these management strategies, in particular problem solving and decision making. We will then also be dealing with technicians and spending 4 days with 20 of them from the Tripolitanian region, focusing on the practical aspects of documentation, assessment and treatment. And in this way, we hope to start the process of capacity building in Libya and enabling Libyans to look after their own heritage, but also providing a bridge for Libyans to join other major international courses like those put on by the Getty, the Mosaic project, and also by ICROM and the ICROM Athar initiative. And so we hope to build bridges and help the Libyans to attend those larger, longer training courses. And it just remains to say thank you.